Hey everybody, it's your self-proclaimed metal mogul. This time around it's a contest entry, 2,000 subscribers contest giveaway video for Dennis over at Analog Archives. Yeah, so 2,000 subs, absolutely fantastic achievement. Dennis is one of these guys that is, you can tell he lives and breathes his metal and his movies. Let's just take a look at him, shall we? So, as you can see from the background, it looks like he's actually on a film set, but this is the room that he films his videos and drinks his beer by the looks of it and listens to his music. Dennis he listens to a lot more of the extreme stuff, which I don't, so I don't necessarily watch and comment on every one of Dennis's videos, but you can tell he's got the passion there, and he's the king of OGs, but there is a little bit of overlap, and there's a few things that he shows that I do know well, and a hell of a lot of stuff that I don't, to be perfectly honest with you. But do check out Dennis's channel. You can tell why he's got 2,000 plus subs, 2,140-ish by now, by the looks of it. He's just one of those guys. It's just a great watch. Really knowledgeable about his music. So I'm going to pop you away now for a second, Dennis, and crack on. First of all, let me tell you what this is about. So he wants us to show 10 sophomore albums. That's a strange word. That's not a word we really use in the UK that much. So the second album that is better than the first album. Yeah, sophomore. That's such a strange word. Not one that rolls off the tongue easily for us UK folks. Dennis showed a lot of great stuff in his video, and there was a certain amount of crossover for things I like, certainly in the thrash side. I thought I am going to stick exclusively to UK bands, and regular viewers will know that I'm more on the traditional heavy metal side, really. So I'm going to do 10 UK traditional heavy metal albums, second albums that I think are as good or better than the first, but it's all subjective, you may disagree. And I'm going to mix up a little bit. So I've got 5 bands from the 80s, sort of new wave of British heavy metal era, between 1980 and 1982. And then I've got 5 newer UK bands from the last, 5 years or so these are from. And I'm going to alternate. Do one from each as I go along. So, first up, Demon and the Unexpected Guest. They released their second album in 1982. I was really late to the party on Demon. I didn't know who they were back in the 80s. And in fact, I picked up the Night of the Demon, the first album, as a blind buy, without even looking at when it came out. I saw the cover and I thought the cover looks like it's sort of nasty thrash metal. But the debut came out in 1981, and it's as far from thrash metal as you can get. It's just a gnarly cover, but I fell in love with that album, and then grabbed the Unexpected Guest as soon as I could after that, and it carries on just where the first album left off. Really, really good album. If you don't know Demon, those first 2 albums are essentials. They went a little bit more proggy, I guess, after that, and a little bit weirder. So first 2 albums, definitely where it's at for Demon. Second up, I know you probably tired of me showing Seven Sisters. I'm always banging on about Seven Sisters, but honestly, one of my favourite traditional heavy metal bands, modern era traditional heavy metal bands, let alone UK heavy metal bands. And this is the Cauldron on the Cross, which was released in 2018. This was my album of the year in 2018. Even better than Firepower. I think Firepower is my second one from Judas Priest. But this is just beautifully well produced. The songs all flow together, and it's a modern day masterpiece as far as I'm concerned. So Seven Sisters, The Cauldron and the Cross. Going back to 1980, with Bruce on vocals, Samson and Head On. Um, Again, just a solid slab of new wave of British heavy metal. It's a little Samson were always a little bit sort of B list, I guess. Bruce Dickinson being the by far and away the standout on this album, and the lovely thunder stick on the background. But a great follow up to the first album. Songs like Hammerhead, Hunted, Man Watcher, Take Me to a Leader. Great album, really early on in the new wave of British heavy metal period. Now we're going to jump forward 41 years to 2021 and the second offering from Toledo Steel, Heading from the Fire. I think Toledo Steel are from Southampton on the south coast of England. They have had a little bit of a bumpy road with lineup changes, but I've been with this band from the start, from their early EPs that they released through their first album, and then in 2021 the much anticipated Heading for the Fire, and it didn't let me down. It also has a song on here called Writings on the Wall, but that's not a Maiden cover, which came out. Did it come out after? I believe it did, or the same year even. But yes, solid slab of UK traditional metal. Toledo Steel, well worth checking out. Back to 1980, a band that released their first two albums both in the same year, in 1980. Their first album, Filth Hounds of Hades, came out in March, and then 6 months or so months later, in October, Tank released Power of the Hunter. It's a different sounding album a little. Certainly the cover's different. The artwork on the first one was gnarly, and it was very much Motorhead, on the Motorhead side of heavy metal, and this one just seems it's just a little bit different. I'm not going to go as far as to say it's better, but I think it's certainly as good as Filth Hounds. Even the cover of Crazy Horses is pretty passable. So Tank of Power of the Hunter. 2019. This band is fairly local to me, and that's Midnight Force and Godovin, a band I got to know really, really well before they'd actually released anything from the playing the club scene in Edinburgh and Glasgow. This, their second offering, is a step on from Dunsinane, the first album. They like to write songs about epic battles. The Doom of Kiev, Lindisfarne Lay, Wall of Acre, Covenant. Brilliant songs. They're on their website, I don't know if they still have, but they had a map and a description of all the battles that the songs are based on and depicted. And yeah, I can't believe it's been 4 years now since this came out. I know they're kind of split, I think, between Scotland and Germany, the band members, but I really hope that they start playing it again. I know they've played a couple of gigs recently, which I wasn't able to make, but I'm really looking forward to seeing these guys again live. 1980. Again, Witchfind and Stage Fright. This is a really good follow-up to is it Give 'Em Hell? I've only just bought their debut album, which was a bit of a grail that I found in the wild when I wasn't looking for it, funnily enough, only a few weeks back, so you'll see that in an upcoming collection update at some point. But Stage Fright is, again, a really good early 80s heavy metal album. It's not, it's not really the heaviest of heavy metal, but it's when heavy metal was really, 80s heavy metal was really finding its feet. And Stage Fright is a fantastic album. I've always really enjoyed. Always liked this album and really enjoyed it as well. Another 2019 album. This is another band that has been through bit of a ringer when it comes to changes, and that's Amulet and the Inevitable War. Their first album, called The First, sounds very different to this one. It has much more of an early 80s sound to it. They had numerous lineup changes, and this was about, I think this is about 6 or 7 years at least after the first album. New lineup, slightly new sound, but absolutely a banging album. Opening track, The Satanist, absolutely fantastic. Poison Chalice and Call of the Siren. Really, really good, straight up heavy metal album from Amulet. And the last but one, from 1981. Now, 100 Mile Per Hour was a live album, and that was their first album, which was a pretty brave move, and it is 100 miles an hour. And Vardis, The World's Insane, which came out in 81 for a special price of $1.99, was a much different affair. This is a little bit more sort of rock and roll. Is it better? I don't know. But I pulled this out for a spin the other day, and figured I'd show it while it was out. It's got a pretty good cover of Silver Machine, Hawkwind, but I don't think it's possible to really do a bad cover of that song, because it's an easy one to play along with, I think. But the real stars of the show on here are Police Patrol and Love Is Dead for me. It's just a good rock and roll, hard rock album, really, with hints of new wave of British heavy metal thrown into it as well. And the last one for today, CD this time, another Scottish band, and this is Rune Master and The Wanderer, which came out in 2020. I've only recently come to appreciate this as being better than the first album. I loved the first album. I played that a lot. I've seen them live a number of times. The first time I played this one, it didn't really click with me, so it's been on the shelf for a couple of years now without really getting much airtime. But when I was looking through for some UK second albums, I thought I'd give this one another go. I'm really glad I did. I've played it 3 or 4 times since putting this out. It's Rune Master. It kind of looks a little bit sort of black metal-y, I guess, with the cover and the band logo, but it is more in the epic, doom-laden, traditional heavy metal sound, and it's a really strong album. I don't know it well enough yet, actually, to know what all the songs are. So I'm just trying to see if I can remember them from the name. I believe Rider of the Nine was probably my favourite track on here. But Rune Master is definitely worth checking out if you like that sort of epic, doom-laden heavy metal, along the lines of, say, of Grand Magus, but they're different enough to be worth checking out. So there we have it. There's my 10 Sophomore albums, all UK bands, best part of 40 years between the two halves of them. Thanks for running this contest, Dennis. Made me think, maybe pull out some albums that I hadn't heard for quite some time. Congratulations again on the 2K. I'll leave a link below to Dennis's channel, so please do go and check him out if you haven't already. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again soon.